right, and we are back again with the Young Millionaire in Training podcast, season 3, episode 1. Man, I'm so blessed to be here. Starting this season means more to me than even initially starting, and just because of everything I went through, even kind of dating back to season 2. The end of season 2, and then in between, while I was taking this hiatus and break on it, so much happened, so much went on for it, and I was in the battle of my life with my mental health and dealing with anxiety and depression. So before I kind of get into the episode, the thing that I want you to keep in mind throughout this episode today is that I am enough. I am enough. So I'm saying that first to myself, and then I want each and every one of you to say that to yourself as well. I am enough. You're already a success today. Today, you're already successful. Anything else you do after today is just additional success, but you're already successful. You haven't failed. Still being here in itself, existing, loving, caring for people is a success in itself. Okay, so you can always add to that success, but like I said, this is season 3, episode 1. Thank you all for returning, hanging in there with me as I was battling. I know a lot of people didn't even necessarily know. If you listen back to probably the last couple episodes of season 2, granted they were interviews, you may not have caught it because I wasn't talking quite as much, but that was part of the reason why I was not doing interviews myself, because I was starting to kind of go through, and I'm going to actually talk about some of those things today. What I went through, how it impacted me, what I did to overcome it and learn how to manage it. I'm going to be very transparent and very, very vulnerable during this. If you follow me on social media, definitely make sure you catch it. Facebook, Young Millionaire in Training Podcast, Instagram, _YMIT_podcast. Catch it on TikTok. I think it's DubG87 actually on TikTok. Is that all? I think that's all for right now. But yeah, just definitely tap in with me. It'll be down in the description of the episode. And I will talk about some of these things there. But I said that transparency is my superpower. And the reason why this is so relevant, because I know you like, hey, I'm here for financial literacy, Warren. I ain't here to hear about your mental health battles. But the thing that a lot of people don't understand, and by a lot of people, this was me 6 months ago. I didn't understand this. When your mental health is suffering, it doesn't matter how ambitious you are. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how nice of a person you are. It doesn't matter how talented you are. If you can't function and do the simple things like eat and sleep. Okay. During this time frame, I actually lost about 30 pounds. I've lost 30 pounds from the time when we'll say I ended this podcast until now, but it really happened over about a 2.5 month span where I lost all that weight. This led me to being out of work for, I'm out on FMLA for a while, stopped running my businesses for a while. Let me see what else happened. Started seeing a psychiatrist, started seeing therapists. I actually had 2 therapists at one point, and I'm going to cover all this, going to the doctor regularly, just to get myself back right, because I take that mental health very seriously. But I do want to also talk about how, because I didn't take it as seriously as I needed to, it led me there. So let's kind of rewind. If you remember, I told you all at the end of season 1, I was taking a hiatus because my daughter was coming here. Okay. And one thing before I actually go into it, forgiveness. I want you to remember that. If you're taking notes, write that down. Forgiveness, because forgiveness is actually the currency of mental freedom. Okay. So it's still going to be a similar financial concept. We're just talking about mental freedom instead of financial freedom, quote unquote. So my daughter came out here for the first summer. I finally got her. She's 10, okay? So just to recap some of the things about that, during the first 4 years of her life, I was not aware on if she was mine or not. So I was not as present as I would have liked to be looking back at it, okay? For that, I faulted myself. Faulted, because I want to say it's in past, because it's something that I've forgiven myself for. And that's why that word forgiveness is so important. it's something I would fault myself for in the past because I felt like, no, I didn't know. Yes, her mother could have done more to help me know, but it was my responsibility. I should have pushed harder to find out. Now, once I found out, y'all know I love being a father. So I wanted to jump in, really be that father, really be those things. It took me from the time that she was 4 until she turned 10 almost. Well, she was 9 when I brought her out here. She's 10 now, until 9. So you're talking 5 years. It took me from finding out at 4 till her being 9 years old for me to get her out here to Texas, okay, to be able to visit me for a summer. So it took 5 years for me to be able to get her out here. Now, when I got her out here, the very first weekend she was out here, she started crying. I'm like, what's wrong, baby? Her little brother and sister with her mom, it was their first birthday, and she was sad because she was here in Texas with me instead of home there for their first birthday, which is very understandable. And it kind of set the tone for the summer of her being homesick. Okay. Because of course I told her, I was like, I didn't know. Had I known, like, that's why communication is so important. Had I known, I would have, probably just delayed it until after that, because it was the very first weekend. I would have just let you stay. That's fine. Like, that wouldn't have hurt my feelings or anything. However, that set that tone for her being homesick. And throughout the summer, she was kind of homesick, ready to go. And if you all remember at the beginning of season 2, when I came back with the Southwest episode, and I was talking about how much that Southwest episode, how much that ordeal impacted me to the point where I was sitting in the hotel room and crying, even though it was very abnormal for me to cry. That's what I actually measure as the first, we'll say, crack in the proverbial wall that is worn, okay? That was the first crack in the wall there. That's the first time that I noticed that I wasn't quite myself, but I just attributed it to, it was a difficult situation. I had a lot going on with the summer, a lot of emotions, this, that, and the third. From there, and I won't use names on this one, just because I want to kind of protect those people, because they are still friends and in my life, and I'm going to be kind of vague on this next situation because I don't just want to put our business out there like that. But I had problems in some personal relationships that meant a lot to me in my life about it. And it was causing me a lot of strife and a lot of negative feelings, even towards people that were important in my life. And the reason why those negative feelings were coming into play, I was already broken, and I already had that crack in the wall, and I didn't even know that the crack was there. And I'm dealing with things that most likely would not have bothered me in the past, but because there was already some weakness there, I wasn't able to manage the way that I was feeling well enough. And then, as it always comes about, hurt people hurt people. So then here I am feeling some kind of way about something that they may have done unintentionally with everything they had going on. So it impacted personal relationships. It impacted my relationship at home. So one of the major things that started doing, y'all know I enjoy being a husband, I enjoy being a father. I got extremely withdrawn during this time. So for me, I was never suicidal in any way. However, I was probably as close to a version of suicidal as Warren could be. And not that I'm putting myself on a pedestal, just for me, I understood suicide was not an option. I understand everybody does not necessarily understand that, which is why I'm even doing this episode, because, okay, I survived and I didn't do it, but that doesn't mean that the next person or the person next to me can't do it. And so therefore I have to empathize with that. Okay. So when I say I got as close as it was, and I don't mean any racial context or disrespect or bigotry with what I'm getting ready to say, but like I literally wanted to move to Mexico, get a poncho and a sombrero and sell fruit on the streets. Okay. Yeah, literally sell fruit on the streets. I was like, I have the freshest papaya in all of Mexico. Yeah, the freshest papaya. Yeah, that was me. That's where I wanted to be. You like, what is, like, why? Because that's not me. Y'all know I'm super ambitious. I like to drive nice cars. I like to dress nice. I like to, and not that you're not dressed nice, but I like suits. I do that. Y'all ain't never seen me in no sombrero, I'll tell you that. But I wanted to go somewhere and live a life where I didn't have any responsibilities. Nobody would bother me. I don't speak Spanish, so I literally would go somewhere where I can't even speak the language just to make sure nobody could bother me. I just wanted to run away from everything. Um, and that's not the way to handle it, but I have become so withdrawn from my family. I would just sit up in my office for hours on end. My family be downstairs. I'm just here. I'm just sitting here, not doing anything, just sitting and thinking in my head. Anxiety just going through the roof. That anxiety, it feels like a pit in your stomach. And it's just this deep pit pain in your stomach, your brain just going through, you can barely breathe, it's difficult to breathe. And it was so difficult on me, and it was growing and growing and growing. Then kind of fast forward, I was starting to run into some issues in my professional life. I was choosing between the path of total entrepreneurship and working in corporate America, and then on top of, okay, if I choose corporate America, do I want to continue to work at the organization I work at, or do I want to go somewhere else? I ultimately chose that I wanted to go somewhere else. So I started looking at this position. Happened to run across it from some friends. They referred me. Got it. It was, we'll call it my dream job. Like if you had talked to a young Warren, a young ambitious Warren, not tall T Warren, a young ambitious Warren, and probably would have been the type of job that I would have said that I wanted. So I filled out the application after being referred. Within 2 days, they hit me back. They hit me back there. And also, before I get into this, I want to discuss this because, once again, I know I'm talking about mental health, and I know this is a financial literacy podcast, but I want to talk about how being so ambitious and seeing all these different things around you can sometimes also impact your mental health, that you can't even accomplish the things that you want to accomplish because you're not correct mentally. And then we'll discuss like how I kind of dealt with some of those things. So the dream job, they called me in about 2 days. Went through the recruiter. She was like, yeah, you're great. I think your skills are super transferable. We love your resume. Great. Sent the resume over to who would have been my boss, the hiring manager. Dealt with him, loved me, knocked the interview out, sent my follow-up email. He replied the same day, hey, I'm sending you to the next level. Then the company is an international company. I actually interviewed with two of the people with two people in London. It was two people in London. They had some nice accents though. Some really nice accents that we enjoy. And they enjoyed my super country accent because they hadn't quite experienced one of those other than on TV, as they told me. So it was a good experience for all of us. But anyway, I interviewed with them. Then I got to the head of the department in which I would have been working in, interviewed with him. That one didn't go as great, but it was still pretty good. By this point in time, we're about 4 weeks in, about a month. So I'm thinking everything's good. I followed up with it. Everything seems to be good. About 2 weeks go by. I reach out to the recruiter. This was a Wednesday. I reach out to the recruiter. And this was the proverbial, we'll say, straw that broke the camel's back. I reach out to the recruiter on Wednesday. She says to me, and I was like, well, I'm also entertaining some other job offers. I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. I was not entertaining other job offers. I just wanted them to think I was entertaining other job offers. However, I was like, I'm entertaining some other job offers, but, I really wanted to work with your company. So before I accept any of those other job offers or really, really entertain them, because I really would probably most likely prefer yours, I wanted to see what the status was and kind of follow up. So she said, well, can you just put it off till Friday? Because I'm supposed to meet about you on Friday, and I should have some good news for you on Friday because they really loved you. So at this point in time, She didn't say I had a job, but pretty much in my mind, I was like, we balling. I'm like, baby, we balling. I'm like, look, we just need to wait till Friday. Because if she called me early on Friday morning, we can get down to the Mercedes dealership by Friday afternoon and cop a new G-Wagon. You feel me though? And, we making all these plans because I'm like, man, I finally made it. I was like, yo, you did it, Warren. Yo, you did it. I was like, you finally reached that pinnacle that you have been looking to reach for so long. So I'm on top of the world. Even though I'm already dealing with this anxiety and depression, this was what I thought was going to be my saving grace to pull me out of it. And once again, remember, I am enough. Okay? That's going to be important here in just a moment. So she calls me on Friday and says, well, they decided to go with somebody else. Your resume was great. They really loved you, but this person was just a little bit more plug and play, a little bit, closer to what it was that they wanted in the position. Yeah, I was devastated. Yeah, I was devastated because I was already feeling the anxiety. I was already feeling the pressure from so many different places. I was feeling it, like I said, with my daughter. I was feeling it at work. I was feeling it at home with my wife and my daughter. I was feeling it everywhere, and I was getting that feeling of, I feel like I was living my entire life for other people just to make everybody else happy. Everybody wanted something from me, and it was never good enough. But I was the only one that thought I wasn't good enough. So that Friday went, I had a super long weekend trying to get past it. And it's always, I'm reaching out to people and, everybody give you that, it'll get better, Warren, and, just wait till your time. And I'm like, man, I've been waiting. I already been waiting. I'm tired of waiting. I don't want to wait no more. But I was like, they were like, everything works out the way it was. I was like, I used that last time. That's the phrase I used last time. So that next Tuesday, I made it up to Tuesday, kind of sort of. I was upset. Tuesday, I log into work early in the morning. My work phone rings. I have a complete and total anxiety and panic attack and totally shut down. I just totally shut down about it. By this point in time, we're in October, okay? October of 2021. Excuse me, 2022. Jeez, year going fast. We in 2023. Thank the Lord. But it kicked in on me. It really kicked in on me. So I said, well, I just shut down totally. I just clocked out of work. I was like, look, I can't do this today. I just laid in the bed. I went and told my wife what was up. She found me a therapist. We started looking for therapists because I was like, I can't do this by myself. I guess I was kind of expecting that job to bring me out of everything. And this was just the final path. My wife had been telling me that I was not myself, but it was just, I need to work harder. I need to do more. It's just the environment I'm in. And to the point, all those things were true. But what I didn't understand at the time was my mental health had deteriorated so bad because I give out so much and I rarely put things back in, that it had deteriorated so much that I was no longer able to function at an efficient rate. I wasn't being a good husband. I wasn't being a good father. I wasn't being a good employee. I wasn't being a good business owner. I wasn't even being good to myself. I was beating myself up daily. Why are you not good enough? Why didn't you do this? Somebody's always better than you. Those are the kind of things that I was saying to myself constantly. So fast forward a little bit. This same week when I did that, my best friend was also getting married in North Carolina. So literally 3 days after having this major panic attack that I hadn't gotten better from, mind you, because it lasted for about 2.5 times. I had already lost about 17 pounds or so by this point in time, because I wasn't eating. I couldn't sleep. My sleep was super intermittent. I couldn't do any of these things. Matter of fact, when I actually discovered that I had lost the weight, I had this red Louis Vuitton belt there's some pictures up of it, but that I hadn't been able to wear because it was too small. And when I was putting my outfit together for the wedding, my wife was like, why don't you wear the red Louis belt? And I was like, oh, it's too small. And I was like, well, I can try it on and see, maybe I can get away with it. and I could fit it just fine. And I was like, oh, wow, I've gotten small. Excuse me. So I realized that I was losing weight. That's how I actually realized that I was losing weight. When I got on the scale, seen I was already down 17 pounds. And I'm like, oh, because I hadn't really been eating um, during that time frame. The anxiety was weighing on me so heavily, I just didn't have an appetite. So this was the thing. I had a panic attack, but I had to go to my best friend's wedding around all my friends, some of our family that we all know. Everybody knows me, so they know my personality. So it was so tiring because I literally had to turn my personality all the way up to like the highest setting just in my mind to hide from everybody so they wouldn't know what I was going through. I didn't want anybody to know that I just had a panic attack. And not even just that I didn't want to share it with my people, but it was like I'm here for my best friend's wedding. I'm not trying to take the attention away from his wedding on this. Now, note, let's pause right here. I keep talking about this is a financial literacy show, not a necessarily mental health podcast, although I am going to index that in here and integrate that into it more, because I couldn't function to be the quote unquote young millionaire in training, to build businesses, to help people, because I couldn't even do the simple things like eat and sleep. There are people that are battling with this every single day. You can't be successful if you can't even eat and sleep. You have to be able to do those basic things. And there are times when that anxiety and that depression robs you of that ability. And every talent that you have cannot overcome your ability to be tired and hungry. Okay. And that's super, super important for people to understand. So I go to this wedding and I have to turn my personality all the way up. Just so happened, due to scheduling stuff, my daughter and Missy didn't go, so I was by myself. So I had some time to myself, but I was so tired by the time that I finished interacting with people because I had to. I was overcompensating, just like it says, so people didn't know what I had going on. So I returned back from the wedding. Now we're kind of moving into my birth month of November. I'm still going through all the anxiety. I'm still trying to fight through it. At this point in time, I actually have two therapists. There's a lady therapist and a male therapist that I'm dealing with, trying to kind of feel it through, see who I like better, see who I'm dealing with better, whatever the case may be on that. I've talked to my doctor at this point in time. They've talked about putting me on medication, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really too keen on medication. I just want to kind of figure this out myself. So I was kind of slow to that. So I'm going to the therapist. The therapist actually informed me of a couple of things that I want to discuss with you here. The first of being is why I keep saying I'm not enough, or excuse me, I keep saying I am enough, because I constantly remind myself that's my new daily affirmation on it, that I am enough, and I say it multiple times a day. I am enough. So we discover that I operate under this core value of I'm not enough, to the point that I'm always trying to do things to prove I'm enough. And because I hold myself to such a high standard that it's hard for me to ever truly reach that. And I also assume that other people view me in that same light when other people don't necessarily view me in that same light. I was concerned my wife didn't view me in that same light, or that my wife thought I wasn't enough. I was worried my kids think I wasn't enough. I was worried my friends think that I wasn't enough. I was worried other people that I deal with and have been in relationships didn't think that I was enough. And I was beating myself up about it. And what that led to was cognitive distortion. So what cognitive distortions are is a number of different ways in which you think differently than what reality is. Like you think in black and white. I'm really good for thinking in black and white. It's either this or this, never thinking in the gray. Or you get so caught up on the future that you work into what's going on in the future, or you make up make up almost like fairy tales because you come to a conclusion, but your conclusion is not based in fact in any way. You just like, if X, Y, if X equals Y, then Y automatically has to equal Z. And that's not always the case. Life isn't always that perfect. And also learning how to deal with your emotions. Traditionally, I'm not a very emotional person. I deal on logic very heavily. So when my emotions get involved, that's a brand new area for me. And understanding that you're allowed to feel your emotions. You can feel angry. You don't have to hurt people because you do, but it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel bad. All these things are okay to actually feel. Is you feel with them, but you deal with them in a healthy way, and you learn how to do that. So the weight loss was getting worse. The lack of sleep was getting worse. By even leading into my birthday, I was trying to do recreational things. It wasn't working for me. So the doctor was like, yeah, you got to come out of work. Because at this point in time, I wasn't even being efficient at work. I was just barely getting it. Even at work, when I got Zoom meetings or if I'm meeting with people, I wouldn't turn my camera on. I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't do anything unless I absolutely had to. And I just wasn't being efficient even slightly at all. So I was like, yeah, let me move away from that. Let me step away. Let me take time to focus on it. Now, this is the other reason why I wanted to do this episode. Even as I was talking to my therapist and talking to my doctor, I justified me wanting to take FMLA in my head because I was like, well, I don't have an appetite and I'm not sleeping and I'm losing weight. I still wanted to connect it to a physical attribute when it wasn't necessary. Your mental is just important as the physical. So in my mind, the only way that I could rationalize that I actually was worthy to take time off of work is because it was impacting my physical body. Although I was being tormented inside of my head, which is equally, if not more important. But just because of, once again, the community, I'm a black male. Like, we don't talk about mental health in our community. It's not good. We were men. Just suck it up. Just deal with it. Rub some dirt on it. Walk it off. Like, that's always the thing. Happy wife, happy life. Like, those are always the thing that we function under so heavily as men, and even more specifically black men. And that was a narrative that's going to have to change. A lot of us black men are suffering. I'm the first one well, let me not say first one. I'm one that will stand up, raise my hand and say, I am suffering. I am hurt. I am disappointed. I don't feel like I'm enough. I want to feel better. Not understanding that it's okay for me to feel this way and work through it. And the people that actually love you the most will help you work through it. Because when you have a bigger mission that you have to accomplish, your mental health is so important. Because think I was going off of social media for a good 3 to 4 months. And out of the podcast, that's 3 or 4 months I wasn't helping somebody else who needed help because I needed help. I needed help. And which was one of the things that I had to deal with. Who did I go to when I needed help? Who did I reach out to? And I just want to say I appreciate everybody that reached out to me, helped me through this process, because I had quite a few people that did that during it and reached out just to check on me, because I haven't heard from you in a long time, Warren. You've been quiet on social media. You've been quiet here. You've been quiet there. You haven't texted me. Is everything okay? I appreciate each and every one of you that did that. It meant the world to me. And even just that little spark and glimmer of hope, especially when a person feels like they're not enough, that, wow, I was enough for them to take a moment out of their day to reach out to me, or take some time out of their day to make sure that I was okay. Like, that little glimmer of hope was just enough to keep me moving, enough so I could be like, okay, let me at least try. Now, fast forward into November, out of work, still not really getting better. Even though I'm out of work, I'm still battling with it. At a certain point, right before, I think the week before Thanksgiving, I actually attempted to, or agreed to go ahead and take some medicine. The medicine, I had some terrible side effects with it. I laid in the bed for 3 days like a zombie. Dizzy the whole time. I was super forgetful. Matter of fact, speaking of being dizzy, I was super forgetful because it was making me nauseous. My wife and I, we were riding in the car, and I'm riding with her one day, and I was like, Missy, it's making me nauseous. And she was like, okay. And then I said, and I'm nauseous in my head. I was like, I'm my head too. I'm nauseous in my head. And then like five minutes later, so we riding down the road. I was like, I mean dizzy, dizzy. Yeah, it's called dizzy. Nauseous. I literally could not remember the word for dizzy. I was like, I'm nauseous in my head too. Yeah, it's something. I just yeah, and I would just forget things I was saying in the middle. So I was like, yeah, this medicine isn't gonna work. Then I needed to so came off of that medicine. Doctor gave me a different one, but I didn't want to try it because I was actually meeting with my friend, same one that got married. He and his wife now, here for Thanksgiving, and we were around their family because fortunately, thankfully they let us, come and spend some time with their family since we were here in Texas. And I was like, well, I don't want to get on these meds because I was like, I don't know how they may have me acting. I don't want to be acting crazy around nobody else's family. And so I was like, well, worst case scenario, I just fake it for a couple of hours if I get into feeling like I'm in a mood. So it worked out. I actually didn't feel like I was in the mood. It felt good to be around friends, people that loved me, and all those different things. That felt really good for me. Now, fast forward to the first week of December. December the 4th. December the 4th. That's the morning that I woke up and I drew the line. Because I couldn't sleep and I woke up and the anxiety was pressing on me so hard. The depression was pressing on me so hard. And before that, I wasn't really willing to really willing to fight back. It was just beating me down. I was super in my head. It was what it was. I was worried about everything. Everything concerned me. Everything bothered me. But December the 4th, that's the morning that I woke up and I drew the line and I said, no more. No more to this anxiety. No more to this depression. I'm fighting back. Now, with that being said, that was not necessarily enough. Okay. Let me be very, very clear about that. Okay. Because then this was a Sunday morning. Then that Sunday night and that Monday night were the two worst nights that I've ever had in my life when it comes to attempting to sleep. Ever, period, were the worst two nights. And reason why, also, disclaimer, this is going to get a little spiritual, a little religious, because I'm going to talk about my faith and how I rediscovered my faith. And that is what ultimately helped me get this under control into a manageable level for me. So I understand that everybody may not be Christian. However, the thing that I would implore you to do through this is whatever your faith may be, whether it be Christian or, Muslim or whatever your faith may be, that you really lean into that if you're struggling with it, because that bit of hope, that bit of faith can give you what it is that you need to fight back and to not give up. Okay. So also, if any part of this story sounds super off the wall to you, I'm so sorry. Deal with it. It's my experience. So I get that you may not even agree with it. Cool. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just sharing my experience. So I hope it can help somebody that does agree with it. So with that being said, that night, that Sunday night, all day, it was almost like there was a little gremlin sitting on my pillow, talking to me in my head, telling me every negative thing that I had ever done. To the point, I'm laying there. Faith, my daughter, she makes a noise. And I was like, oh, let me get up and check. And my wife, she actually ends up getting up to go and see her or see about her. And I literally hear in my head, you're not a good father. And I said, I'm a good father. I said, I know I'm a good father. I'm like, Faith adores me. What about Kamora? That's my older daughter. What about Kamora? Well, I do the best I can. You always just doing the best you can, Warren. But the best you can is never good enough. I was like, okay, that's right. Well, I can't do anything about it right now. I'm laying in the bed. I can't be a better father to her right this moment. You always procrastinating, Warren. Why are you always procrastinating? This is what I'm hearing in my head all night long. Can't even sleep. My wife even, or when I would sleep, I would wake up shortly. My wife was like, "You were grunting in your sleep." And I was like, I was having the battle of my life. And that lasted for 2 nights. That lasted for 2 nights. So early that Tuesday morning, or oh no, on Monday, I called my aunt. Or Tuesday, Monday. I think it was Monday. Or was it Tuesday? Tuesday. I called my aunt because I was like, my aunt's very spiritual. I come from a very spiritual family, a very Christian family. So I called her and I was telling her what was going on with me and everything that had happened and how I was feeling. And she prayed for me and he sent me to her pastor and he prayed for me and this, that, and the third, and, told me to seek God. So on Tuesday morning, I chose to have devotion with God, and I played some soft music, some good Christian in your presence music, kind of to usher in. And I laid there on the floor for probably about 40 minutes. And I was like, I'm not leaving here until I get a breakthrough of some kind. And I laid there and I prayed and I just told God and I repented for everything. And I told him everything that I felt and did just out loud, exactly how it was. That same little gremlin voice was talking to me. I was literally in here yelling, "Shut up, get back up," literally yelling that as I was in here, like, "Back up, you're not doing this. I'm not going to let you win," this, that, and the third. In the middle of it, the experience that I had, I was laying there on the floor and I wasn't asleep. I did have my eyes closed, but I wasn't asleep. And this is the piece where I said, I get it. If it doesn't sound realistic to you, this was my experience. So please expect or, accept it and understand it may not apply to you, but keep in mind, it doesn't really matter because I was there. I know my experience. As I was laying there on the floor, I had this vision of God coming in. It was in black and white, and God came and laid a blanket, a blue blanket on top of me. And I immediately started crying because I knew I had been welcomed back into God's will for me. And so because I knew I had been welcomed back into God's will and had been in total submission to his will and his plan, I was able to unlock it and cast everything that I was dealing with on him in faith. And so now, through finding and reconnecting with that faith, now I do my daily devotion and cast everything on him. But as I was wanting to learn more about him, because it didn't go away automatically and instantly, and I started reading my Bible and I started studying and starting listening to sermons, one of the sermons that I came across as I was going through this time frame was Forgiveness University with Michael Todd. You should look it up on YouTube. It's really good. It's a 10-part series, about 10 hours long. I watched all 10 hours in about 2 or 3 days. Forgiveness University. Because everybody tells you that you need to forgive, but nobody tells you how to forgive. And you forgive because you want people to forgive you when you mess up. And the same amount that you would like to be forgiven is the same amount that you need to forgive others. However, you can't truly forgive others if you haven't forgiven yourself. So when I say that I am enough and I say forgiveness is the currency of freedom, of mental freedom, everybody listening to this needs to forgive themselves right now. Forgive yourself. It doesn't matter how bad you messed up. It doesn't matter who you hurt. It doesn't matter. Forgive yourself. Even if they won't forgive you, you need to forgive yourself. Stop beating yourself up about it. And how do you forgive yourself? For me, it was, if God can forgive me for everything that I've done, why can't I forgive myself? Why do I hold this against me when I can't change it? It doesn't matter now that I wasn't there for those first 4 years with my daughter because I'm there now. It doesn't matter that I initially dropped out of college and had to go back because I've already finished now and I got a master's degree. It doesn't matter that all these businesses failed And I felt like a failure when they failed because I now have successful businesses. It doesn't matter that I didn't have quite the experience to get the job because I have a job. I provide for my family. I can create. I'm still able to go and get it. Am I going to sit and worry about what I didn't do in the past, or am I just going to get it done now? And that's what allowed me to overcome that anxiety and that depression and move my mental into a different space on that. So that forgiveness piece, and then going back and forgiving and actually understanding the forgiveness. Now, this is the thing with the forgiveness piece, and I don't want to get all super preachy on y'all, but with the forgiveness piece, it's not going to be instant. It is a process. If you've never forgiven, for me, I'm not the type to forgive, admittedly. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you, once again, I say I'm very transparent with you all. What made the forgiveness thing really click in my head, I had not forgiven my daughter's mother for that situation that went on with us, where I ended up with there being a child in the world that I didn't even know if it was mine or not. And I had not forgiven her for that. But I did it. I held on to it under the pretense of nobody will ever do me like that again. I never let anybody get me like that again. That was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Nobody will ever do that to me again. But then when I sat back and looked at it, I said, well, Warren, you've been married for 8 years. Your wife didn't do that to you. Y'all aren't having any more kids. Exactly what situation would you be in that a woman could do that to you? And I said, there shouldn't be a situation, because if there's a situation like that, that means my wife's not involved. And that's when it dawned on me that I was holding on to a quote unquote protection mechanism on something that I didn't need protection from. It's like living in the mountains and having a life jacket for the beach. Or living in the desert, probably better, but you're carrying a life jacket. Yes, it'll keep you safe, but it's just extra dead weight when you're walking around in the desert. You don't need a life jacket in the desert. Yes, it's a safety mechanism, but you don't need it. It's not going to do anything for you. Leave it at home. It doesn't help. And that's what that forgiveness does. When you're holding on to those things, that's part of your soul, part of your brain, part of your heart that could be used to making you a better person. But instead, you rather use it and hold on to it and try to hold it against somebody who probably doesn't even care. Just to keep it 100 with, they probably don't even care. And for what? So for me, it's been this new thing of finding forgiveness, and it's freed me so much where I don't have to worry about what. Matter of fact, for instance, I'll give you a prime example. One of the things that has stopped me from taking certain issues early, or certain chances or risk early on, or in certain opportunities, that's the word I wanted, certain opportunities early on, is because, of course, I do pay child support. Yes, I do pay my child support. But I was worried. I was like, man, I don't want to pay no more child support. If I make more money, I'm going to make more child support. But the root of it was I hadn't forgiven my daughter's mom for the situation. So I didn't think that she needed to be rewarded for my hard work. Not, once again, focusing on, no, but this is for your child. And that's the things that holding and harboring that unforgiveness will do to you. It'll have you limiting yourself, attempting to hurt somebody else, and then you unintentionally hurt somebody who didn't even deserve to be hurt while limiting yourself. It's just a big, complete ball of hurt and totality. So learning how to forgive. So that's been my journey over these last couple of months. I do my daily devotion, study up, be real. That's been the journey. So I hope that it helps somebody. If anybody has questions or want me to go more in depth with any piece of it, please reach out. I'm not hesitant to talk about this at all, not even a little bit, because if it can save somebody else's life, like I said, fortunately, I was never suicidal, but that doesn't mean the next man or the next woman wouldn't be. And I don't want to see anybody succumb to anything that I possibly could have helped with. So if you're struggling with it, please feel free to reach out. And until next time, y'all be good. And make sure to follow us on all our social media.